The sun was low in the sky, turning everything into shades of gold and red. Dust blew across the broken path, carried by the dry desert wind. Jack sat on the porch of his small shelter, sipping old bitter tea from a metal cup. He had lived alone. For many years on this forgotten planet, far from war, far from people, he liked the silence, the emptiness, the safety of being alone. But that day, something was different. Something moved in the dust. Just beyond the hill, Jack squinted, slowly stood up, and reached for the small rifle beside him. His boots crunched softly as he walked down the rocky path. Then he saw her, a little alien girl, no older than 7 maybe, crouched behind a broken rock. Her skin was pale purple, covered in dust and bruises. Her hair was silver and wild like tangled wire, and her big violet eyes stared at him with fear. She clutched a dirty cloth doll tightly to her chest and didn't move. Jack lowered his rifle slowly, not wanting to scare her. "It's okay," he said gently. "I'm not going to hurt you." She didn't reply, just watched him, her small body shaking. Looked around, no one else in sight. No parents. No tracks, just her. He took off his coat and placed it on the ground near her, then stepped back. "You can take it if you're cold," he said. "And there's water in my shelter." The girl didn't move, but after a long minute, she reached for the coat, wrapped it around herself, and stood up slowly. She was barefoot, and her feet were cracked from walking in the heat. Jack didn't ask questions, not yet. He turned and walked back to his shelter, leaving the door open behind him. To his surprise, he heard soft footsteps follow. She entered silently, standing near the wall. Still holding her doll and coat, Jack filled a metal cup and handed it to her. She stared at it, then sniffed the water and drank fast, like someone who hadn't tasted water in days. Jack didn't speak. Didn't ask where she was from. He just let her sit by the small heater and gave her a piece of dried bread. Her tiny hands grabbed it fast, and she bit into it like a starving animal. He felt something twist in his chest. She was alone, frightened, and hurting, just like he once was. Later that night, she fell asleep on the floor, curled up like a cat. Jack watched her from his chair. Not sure what to do. He didn't know her name, her species, or how she got here, but she was here now. And that meant something. The next morning, he heard her crying softly in her sleep. He walked over, knelt down, and touched her shoulder gently. She opened her eyes wide, gasping, and backed away fast. But Jack held out his hands, calm and quiet. "It's all right," he said. "You're safe now." She looked at him for a long time, then slowly nodded. Jack reached into a small cabinet and pulled out a bandage kit. He pointed to her arm. It had a small cut, red and swollen. She hesitated, then let him clean it, flinching a little. As he wrapped the bandage around her arm, she spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft and rough, broken English. "You help Mama too." Jack froze. "What?" he asked, surprised. She looked at him, eyes filled with something he didn't understand. "Bad ones take her, hurt her. I run." Jack sat back slowly. Her mother was taken. She escaped, alone, through the desert, looking for someone, anyone, and she found him. Before Jack could ask more, a sharp sound came from outside, like a whisper carried by the wind, but deeper, almost like growling. Jack stood quickly and grabbed his rifle. He stepped outside and scanned the horizon. Nothing, just the blowing sand and broken rocks. But his instincts screamed something was out there, watching, waiting. He went back inside and locked the door. The girl sat still, hugging her knees. He looked at her and said, "We'll talk more in the morning." She didn't reply, but before she lay down again, she whispered, "Please don't leave me." Jack nodded. "I won't," he said quietly. Then he sat down near the door, rifle in hand. Eyes on the darkness, the dust outside kept blowing, and the girl, She wasn't just lost, she was the beginning of something bigger. Jack didn't know what yet, but his quiet life was over. The storm had come, and it came in the form of a little girl in the dust. The wind howled across the desert all night. Jack didn't sleep. He sat beside the locked door with his rifle in hand, eyes fixed on the shadows moving outside every so often. He thought he heard something. A soft footstep. A breath, a whisper not made by the wind. Inside, the girl was curled up near the heater sleeping with her doll pressed to her chest. But Jack could feel it. They were not alone. At first light, he stepped outside, scanning the sand, and then he saw it. A footprint, just one, fresh and deep in the dirt. Not his, not the girl's, and far too large. It had sharp edges, like claws had dug into the ground. Whoever, or whatever, had been here, was close. Jack followed the tracks for a few meters, but they disappeared as quickly as they came. Buried by shifting sand, his gut tightened. Something had come to the edge of his camp. And watched. He returned inside, trying not to alarm the girl, but she was already awake, sitting quietly and staring at the door. Was it them? She asked softly. Jack blinked. Who? The ones who took Mama, she whispered. They always come at night to see if I'm alone. Jack sat down across from her. You need to tell me everything, he said. I can't help if I don't know what's going on. The girl hesitated, then slowly began to speak in broken phrases. Her name was Leary. She and her mother had lived in a hidden colony far from the trade routes. But a group of raiders, not human, not fully alien either, attacked. They were slavers, collectors. Of rare species, they didn't kill her mother, Selah. They chained her. Jack listened closely, his face growing more serious with every word. How did you escape? He asked. Leary looked down, her fingers gripping her doll tighter. She threw me out, she said, into the sand. Told me to run, not stop running. Jack stood and paced the small room, thinking if her mother was still alive, there might be a chance, but going after slavers was suicide. He looked down at the girl. So small, so fragile, but her eyes were fierce. She had crossed a wasteland alone, just to find help, and he was the help, whether he wanted to be or not. Leary stood and walked to the corner with her small finger. She began drawing in the dust on the floor. Symbols, lines, arrows. What's that? Jack asked. The way, she whispered. I remember the stars. The hills. The mark on their ship. Jack leaned in, heart racing. He recognized one of the marks, a jagged triangle with a slit through it. He had seen it once, carved into the helmet of a dead mercenary during the Old War. It belonged to a group called the Dunefangs, not just raiders, they were trophy hunters. And they didn't take prisoners unless they were valuable. Jack stared at the girl. You think your mother is still alive? Leary nodded. Yes, I feel her every night. He looked at the map again. Then at the horizon outside, there was an old canyon, deep, broken, and hidden, near where the marks pointed. He remembered stories of Dunefang activity there. If Selah was being held, that's where she'd be. I'll take you back, Jack said at last. Leary's eyes widened. Really? Jack nodded. But it's not going to be safe. And I can't promise what we'll find. Leary walked to him and placed her tiny hand in his. You're strong, she said. You'll find her, as they packed water and food. Jack glanced. At the sky, dark clouds were forming, not from weather, from ships. Someone was already flying above the sands, maybe watching them, maybe waiting. But Jack didn't care anymore. He had lived alone for too long, hiding from the world. Now that world had come to him in the form of a girl and her missing mother. He strapped on his old desert gear, checked his rifle, and looked once more at the map Leary had drawn. There were monsters out there, and maybe worse things than slavers. But Jack had made a promise now. He was going into the dust. And this time, he wouldn't walk alone. The canyon felt alive. Its tall, red walls trapped the wind, making it howl like a living creature. Jack walked carefully, holding Leary's hand, each step crunching against rocks and bones. They had traveled for 2 days, hiding during the heat, moving under the stars. And now they were here, the place from Leary's memory. But it didn't feel like hope. It felt like a trap. Leary tugged his sleeve, pointing toward a ridge ahead. There, she whispered. That's where they took her. Jack looked through his binoculars below the ridge. Half hidden by canyon shadows was a campsite. Makeshift tents, metallic crates, and alien machines blinking with red lights. And inside, a circular pen made of energy bars. Someone was kneeling. She was tall, even while crouching. Her lavender skin was marked with glowing blue tattoos, faint and cracked. Chains wrapped her arms and legs, and her head hung low, hair falling across her face. Jack zoomed in, his breath catching Selah. Leary gasped. Mama. Jack held her back gently. Wait, he said. We have to be smart. He studied the camp. 5 guards, 2 insectoid aliens with rifles, 1 robotic brute scanning the perimeter, and 2 cloaked figures near a fire. Too many to fight directly, but there was movement. One of the guards walked toward the pen. Opening the gate, Jack focused his scope, heart pounding. The cloaked man pointed something at Selah. A weapon, maybe. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at the ground. Then the man laughed, spit at her, and left. Jack clenched his jaw. She's weak, he said, but still alive. He looked at Leary. We'll wait for nightfall, he said. Then I'll go in. You? She asked, voice shaking. Alone. Jack nodded. I've done worse. That night, Jack painted his face with dust, wrapped himself in shadows. He told Leary to stay hidden, deep in a crevice. If I don't return by morning, he said, run west. Keep running. Leary didn't cry, didn't beg. She just whispered, bring her back. Jack moved like a ghost. Slipping past the sentry drone when it turned, he crept behind the crates, keeping low, every sound like thunder in his ears. The guards were distracted, laughing over something on a screen. Good. He reached the edge of the energy pen and stopped. Selah was still kneeling, but now her eyes were open. Glowing faintly, she looked right at him. Like she had known he was coming, Jack raised one finger to his lips. Then he stepped into the pen, instantly. The air shimmered, the shield reacted, humming louder. Selah's eyes widened. But she didn't scream. Instead, she whispered, Leary, is she safe? Jack nodded. She's with me. Tears filled her eyes. You're the human, she said. The one she dreamed about. Jack moved to the control box, fingers working quickly. Can you walk? I'll crawl if I have to, she said with a weak smile. He disabled the chain lock and helped her up. She was taller than him, even weakened. But she leaned on him like she weighed nothing. Alarms suddenly blared, red lights flashing. Jack cursed. So much for quiet. They ran, ducking behind containers as shots fired past them. 2 guards chased them toward the rocks, shouting in an alien tongue. Jack pushed Selah into a gap and spun around, blasting one guard straight in the chest. The second one leaped, but Selah, even half dead, struck him with a glowing pulse from her hand. The alien screamed and collapsed. They stumbled toward the crevice where Leary was hidden. She ran out crying, Mama. Selah dropped to her knees and opened her arms. Leary jumped into them, crying into her chest. Jack turned to watch the canyon. More guards were coming. Fast. We need to move, he said. Selah held her daughter tightly, then looked up at Jack. You came, she said. You saved her. And me? Jack offered his hand. We're not safe yet. She took it, gripping it tightly. As they fled into the desert night, Selah looked back at the burning camp. I was nothing to them. She whispered, but you? You saw me. Jack didn't reply. He didn't need to. They vanished into the dark. One man, one mother, and a little girl, running from chains, running toward something new. The desert night was cold. Sweat still ran down Jack's back. He walked fast, holding his rifle tight, his other hand supporting Selah. Her tall frame leaned against him. Her steps slow but strong. Leary followed close, barefoot, her tiny hand gripping her mother's long robe. They had escaped the slaver camp, but not safety, not yet. Selah's breathing grew heavy. Jack stopped behind a cluster of rocks, guiding her down gently. "You need rest," he said. "We'll move at first light." Selah shook her head weakly. "They'll come," she said. "They always come back." Jack knelt, unrolling a thin blanket. "We'll be gone before they can track us." But Selah didn't look relieved. She stared at the fire Jack had lit, her face lost in shadows. "Why?" she asked suddenly. "Why would a human risk everything? For me?" Jack didn't answer right away. Instead, he passed her a water pouch. "You're not just anyone," he said. "You're Leary's mother, and she came to me, not the other." Way around, Selah smiled faintly. Her lip cracked and bleeding. She believed someone would help. She said, "I didn't." She looked at her daughter, who had already fallen asleep in her lap. "I told her." "No one saves broken things." Jack frowned. "You're not broken," he said. "You're hurt." "Not ruined." She went quiet, her glowing tattoos dimming under the starlight. Then she pulled up her sleeve, revealing deep scars, fresh and old. "They used to call me a warrior," she whispered. "But when I was captured, my people erased my name." Jack stared at the markings. Some were tribal. Others were slaver codes, property marks. "They made me fight," she said. "I survived because I obeyed, and for that, my people turned their backs on me." Jack didn't know what to say, so he said the only thing that felt true. "You're still here," he said, "and your daughter still loves you." Selah looked at him for a long time. "You should leave me here," she said quietly. "Take her, save her. Forget me." Jack's voice turned sharp. "No," he said. "You don't get to choose that. Not anymore. She needs you, not just a warm place and food, but you, her mother." Selah closed her eyes. "I'm ashamed," she said. "I don't know how to be free." Jack sat beside her, leaning back against the stone wall. "Then we'll figure it out together," he said. "You don't have to carry it alone." Silence fell. The fire crackled softly, and the stars blinked high above. But just before Jack's eyes closed, a sudden pulse of blue light shimmered on Selah's skin. Her tattoos were glowing brighter than before. She gasped, clutching her chest. "Jack," she whispered. "They marked me with a tracker." "I forgot." Jack shot up. "What?" Selah gritted her teeth. "If they scan this sector, they'll find us. No matter how far we run." Jack's mind raced. If the tracker activated, the slavers could be on them in hours, maybe minutes. He checked his gear, pulling out an old military knife and a medkit. "I can remove it," he said, "but it's going to hurt." Selah met his eyes, then slowly nodded. She laid back, biting a cloth strap to muffle her scream. Jack found the chip under a scar near her collarbone. He worked quickly, hand steady, ignoring the blood, ignoring her shaking. When it was over, he dropped the bloody tracker onto a rock and smashed it with the butt of his rifle. Selah lay still, her breathing ragged, her body trembling. Jack cleaned the wound and wrapped it tightly. "You're safe now," he said. Selah opened her eyes and whispered, "You're more than human. You're good." She tried to sit up, but Jack gently pushed her back. "Rest," he said. "I'll keep watch," as she drifted into sleep. Leary climbed into Jack's lap without a word, curling up like she belonged there. Jack looked down at her, then at the woman resting by the fire. In one day, his life had changed. He was no longer just a man in the desert. He was a shield, a guide, and maybe something more. The stars above turned slowly, and Jack whispered to himself, "I'm not leaving either." The next morning came too fast. The desert sun rose with a fire that baked the rocks and made the air shimmer. But Jack had already packed everything before the first light touched the ground. He didn't sleep, not after what Sayla told him. The tracker, the marks, the price on her head. She was still weak from the extraction, and Leary clung to her side. But there was no more time to rest. They moved west, toward the cliffs where the heat would hide their trail. Jack kept checking the sky, and then he saw them. At first, they looked like dots, just shadows against the blue. But as they grew larger, the shape became clear. 3 sleek ships, black as oil, flying low and slow, scanning the ground, bounty hunters, Jack said, his voice flat. Sayla didn't respond. She didn't have to. She already knew. They found a cave at midday. Hidden beneath broken rock, inside, the air was cool, and the shadows were thick. Jack crouched by the opening, rifle in hand, watching the skies. He turned to Sayla. "How many?" he asked. She closed her eyes, feeling the hum in her skin. 3 ships, she said, but they're not regular bounty teams. These are elites. Elites. Jack repeated. She nodded slowly. Paid not to bring me in, but to end me, clean and quiet. Jack felt the weight in her voice. Not fear, but acceptance. She had lived with this for years, but now she wasn't alone. Leary spoke up suddenly. "Then we fight," she said. Voice small but fierce. Jack looked at the child, surprised. Sayla smiled weakly. "She has my fire." Jack moved deeper into the cave, setting up traps, motion sensors, mines. Old tech he once swore never to use again, but today he would use everything. He wasn't going to lose them. The first ship landed by sunset. It didn't roar or crash, it simply appeared. Silent and deadly, figures stepped out tall, armored with blank metal masks. Each held weapons Jack had only seen in war zones. They moved fast, efficient, but Jack had the advantage. This was his battlefield now. The first trap exploded as they stepped near the entrance. 2 hunters were thrown back, their armor cracked and smoking. Jack opened fire, taking down a third with a clean shot to the neck. Sayla, despite her injury, rose beside him and unleashed a glowing pulse from her palm. The cave lit up blue. The energy wave hit one enemy hard, slamming him into a wall. Another came close, but Jack met him hand to hand, slamming the butt of his rifle into the mask. The hunter stumbled. Jack didn't stop. One blow, then another, until the metal face cracked and fell. Underneath was no alien, no machine. It was a man. Human eyes wide with pain. Jack hesitated. Why were humans hunting Sayla? Before he could ask, the man choked out a single word. Reward. Then fell still. Outside, the last ship lifted off, pulling away fast. Jack watched it rise and vanish. It didn't stay to fight. Maybe they saw enough. Maybe they realized they were outmatched or outhearted inside the cave. Sayla fell to her knees, panting. Jack rushed to her, holding her up. "You all right?" She nodded slowly. "I'm tired, but I'm still here." Leary ran over, hugging both of them. "You saved her again," she said to Jack. Sayla looked into his eyes, something shifting behind hers. "You could have run," she said, "but you stayed." "And fought," Jack shrugged. "You think I'm the kind of man who walks away now?" She smiled, not just in thanks, but something deeper. Something that looked like trust, like hope, that night. While Leary slept beside the fire, Sayla sat close to Jack. She touched the back of his hand gently. "In my world," she said, "a protector like you would be offered more than thanks." Jack raised an eyebrow. "More?" She nodded. "A place, a bond, A future he looked at. Her heart pounding in his chest. You saying that because you mean it? Or because I'm the only one around? She smiled again, sad and beautiful. I'm saying it because Leary calls you Papa now. Jack didn't answer right away. He just looked at the girl sleeping peacefully. Then he looked at Selah and whispered, let's see where this path takes us. The desert was quiet again. No more ships in the sky, no footsteps in the sand, only wind and the steady crackle of fire. Jack sat near the flame. Sharpening his knife out of habit, Selah sat across from him, her body still sore but stronger than before. Her violet eyes watched him in silence. Something unreadable on her face. Leary lay nearby, fast asleep, using Jack's old coat as a blanket. Selah finally spoke, her voice low and calm. Do you know what it means in my culture? She asked. When a man defends a mother and child with his life? Zoc raised an eyebrow. Trouble, he said with a half smile. Selah didn't smile back. Not yet. It means he is no longer a stranger, she said. He becomes family. Jack blinked, knife pausing in his hand. Wait, you saying I'm part of your family now? Selah stood slowly and walked over to him. She knelt beside him, not weakly, but with grace, like a ritual. Her glowing tattoos pulsed gently in the firelight. In our bond rights, she said softly, a protector becomes one with the protected. Jack stared at her, unsure what to say. You mean like marriage? She tilted her head. Your word is close, but ours means more. It's not just love, she said. It's vow, protection, and trust. Bound under the moons, Jack looked down at the sleeping girl. He remembered her first night, hungry, shaking, alone. Now she slept with peace, knowing someone would keep her safe. Selah reached into a pouch and pulled out something small, a glowing crystal shaped like a teardrop. This is a sigil stone, she said, placing it in his hand. If you accept it, we are joined. Not by force, not by duty, but by heart. Jack swallowed hard. This wasn't just a gesture. It was ancient, sacred to her, and he could feel the weight of it, warm in his palm. Why me? He asked softly. Selah's answer came without pause. Because I've seen more honor in you than in the warriors who raised me. You saved my daughter, held her when I could not. You fought beside me, not because I asked, but because you chose to. Jack looked away, voice thick. I'm not a hero, he said. I've lost more than I've saved. Selah leaned closer, her hand touching his cheek. So have I, she whispered, but we're still standing. The moment stretched between them, quiet, heavy, and full of meaning. Jack didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked up at the twin moons above, both full, casting silver light across the rocks. Then he looked at Selah and closed his fingers around the stone. I'll accept it, he said. If it means you and Leary never have to run again. Her breath caught, and then she leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his, a gesture of union in her culture. Then you are ours, she whispered, not just in name, but in soul. That night, they sat close beside the fire, saying little, but feeling everything. Not lovers, not yet, but more than survivors. They had chosen each other in fire, in danger, and now in peace. But peace doesn't last in the desert. The wind shifted, and Jack's instincts kicked in. He stood, eyes scanning the dark. And then he saw it, something small shining near the rocks. He walked toward it carefully. Selah at his side. They found a black disk, half buried in sand, blinking red. Surveillance drone, Jack muttered. But not from the slavers. Selah frowned. Then who? Jack turned it over and found a symbol on the side, a gold sun wrapped in vines. Selah's eyes widened. That's from the High Council, she whispered. My people. But they banished you, Jack said. Yes, She nodded. Slowly, which means they didn't come for me. They turned toward the sleeping girl. The truth landed like a stone in Jack's chest. They weren't after Sayla anymore. They were after Leary. The sun had not yet risen, but the twin moons still bathed the desert in silver light. Jack stood outside the cave, the glowing sigil stone clenched in his fist. Behind him, Sayla held Leary close, her face pale, her voice quiet. They're not coming for me, she whispered. They're coming. For her, Jack turned slowly, eyes narrowing. Why? She's just a child. Sayla shook her head. She's more than that now, she said. She was born under a rare alignment, a blood child. It said those born during the twin eclipse are marked by fate. Jack frowned. Fate for what? Leadership, Sayla said. Revolution or ruin? Leary looked up, confused and scared. Jack knelt beside her, brushing her hair from her face. You're not a weapon, he said gently. You're a kid. And no one is taking you. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. A ship appeared on the horizon, golden and smooth, different from the black slaver crafts. It floated down in silence, kicking up a soft ring of sand. No guns out, no soldiers storming. Just silence. A door opened and 3 robed figures stepped down. Their faces were hidden, but their symbols glowed the sun wrapped in vines. Jack stood in front of Sayla and Leary, rifle down but ready. One of the figures raised a hand. Palm open, we come in peace. The lead one said, voice calm, we seek the child. You'll have to go through me, Jack said sharply. The figure paused, then looked at Sayla. You wear the mark of banishment, they said. But the council forgives what it once feared. Because of her, Sayla stepped forward slowly, holding Leary's hand. What do you want with my daughter? She asked. She carries the light of the stars. The figure replied, our future needs her. Jack growled. You talk like she's a tool. The figure lowered their hood, revealing a woman with silver skin and violet eyes like Leary's. I'm her aunt, she said softly. My sister died. Sayla vanished. I searched the stars for years. Sayla's breath caught Aaliyah. The woman nodded. They told me you were dead. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. Then Leary tugged Jack's sleeve. Do I have to go? She asked. Jack looked at Sayla, then at the woman called Aaliyah. What happens if she leaves with you? She will be trained, protected, raised to lead our kind, Aaliyah said. She will never be alone. Sayla turned to Jack, eyes full of conflict. She'll be safe with them, but not with us. Jack shook his head. You are her mother. He said, she is safest where she's loved. Leary stepped between them and looked up at her mother, then at Jack. Do I have to choose? She asked quietly. Sayla knelt down, brushing her daughter's face. You already did, she whispered, the day you ran through the desert to find him. Jack's heart thudded in his chest. Sayla turned to Aaliyah, standing tall now. You want her to lead your people? She asked. Then she leads from here, with us, her family. Aaliyah was silent for a moment, then slowly nodded. The council will not like this, she warned. Sayla stepped forward, chin high. Then tell them to come speak to me, not my daughter. Aaliyah looked at Jack. And you? Are you willing to stand with them when the storms come? Jack placed the glowing sigil stone around his neck. I already have, he said, and I'm not going anywhere. The morning light broke over the horizon. The twin suns rose side by side, casting golden fire across the sand. Jack stood, with Sayla and Leary between them, not just a human, not just a stranger, but a father, a protector. A chosen bond. Aaliyah returned to her ship, and as it rose into the sky, she looked back one last time. A small smile touched her lips. Maybe this was how peace would begin, not in palaces, but in the dust, between the stars and the heart. Leary ran into Jack's arms and laughed. Selah stepped close. Resting her head against his shoulder, and beneath the twin suns, 3 lives became one. Not by blood, but by choice, by love, by honor, by something even deeper. Family.